Hello and welcome to another exclusive review with me, Alex Belfield, here at celebrityradio.biz. We're the number one reviewer of theatre in the UK and Las Vegas on YouTube and Google, and we're about to hit 60 million minutes viewed this week. Thank you for tuning in to this review of the London Palladium's Goldilocks and the Three Bears Pantomime 2019 through the 12th of January 2020. This production by Michael Harrison and Nick Thomas at Kudos Pantomimes comes in a week when they announced that they're joining partnership 50-50 and earned £50 million last year on pantomime. So it's unsurprising that they throw a dollop of money at the London Palladium, their flagship pantomime, to bring an all-star cast. For the fourth consecutive year, we get the same cast of Julian Clary, Paul Zerdin, Nigel Havers, Gary Wilmot, and back for a second time, Paul O'Grady, and a few ladies added in to play what feel like token parts. Here's the problem with Goldilocks 2019. It is vulgar, obscene, offensive, and frankly grubby. It's gone from Julian being camp and clever to Julian being vulgar and ramming every single anal sex, gay, and cum joke into what is meant to be a family pantomime. I'm confused by Kudos Pantomimes, as they say they're the biggest and the best at pantomime, but seem obsessed with getting rid of the traditions of pantomime. For example, at today's performance, there wasn't one piece of shtick that was aimed at the children in the audience, despite there being a lot of kids in the matinee today at 2:30. There's no "he's behind you", there's no "oh no she isn't, oh yes she is". There is, however, a joke about coming on Goldilocks' face. Julian confuses this bodily fluid with the glue that is meant to be holding her wig on her head. If you think that's acceptable in 2019, then I think it's time I retired. For that reason only, I'm out when it comes to reviewing this pantomime as being a go-to show. In fact, I've got tickets on New Year's Eve, and I'm going to phone Monday morning to cancel them. If they don't give a refund, it's fine. There'll be 2 empty seats. We'll think of them as tombstones for the death of pantomime. Pantomime is meant to be for families, it's meant to be for kids, it's meant to be a bit shit, and unfortunately, Kudos are now 50-50 owned by Michael Harrison, who told me last year he's basically producing 30 musicals. Therefore, it's unsurprising that the show opens with a song from the producers, reworded to sound like it's an original for Goldilocks, and is littered with songs from 42nd Street and a 7-minute medley of every song from musicals, performed magnificently by Gary Wilmot. This begs the question, is Michael trying to show himself off at the Palladium as a musical producer, or trying to celebrate the art of panto? I'm truly disgusted by Julian Clary at this performance. It went from being camp knob gags, and by the way, nobody loves a knob gag more than me, to becoming grubby, seedy, and frankly inappropriate. To be talking about being handcuffed to a bar on your knees in Hampstead Heath in a family pantomime is frankly disgusting. Paul says to Julian, "This time last year, this costume was on Gok One's back." Julian replies, "So was I." I honestly think Kudos have lost their mind and forgotten what they're there to do. Of course, what they're there to do is make Nick Thomas rich and own more of Scarborough, and be able to say next year that they've earned 60 million, not 50 million. With over 40 official companies registered at Companies House, Nick Thomas is a genius, and there is no doubting his success. It's clear they don't care what I think, so this review is of course irrelevant. Certainly their head of marketing, Adrian Lesurf, couldn't give two shits whether I like his stuff or not, attend or not, which is surprising considering that it's 2019 and YouTube and Google are the number one media in the world. With me being so irrelevant, I therefore have no conscience about this one-star review that is, of course, naturally 100% irrelevant to Michael, Nick, Adrian, and of course Kudos, and the general public, who will see this first when Googling review Goldilocks Palladium online. My interest, of course, is in entertaining audiences, and at £175 for the most expensive ticket at the Palladium, my ticket, by the way, was £90, so it wasn't that bad. In a week when Kudos decided to take out the stabbing of the beast at the Newcastle Theatre Royal, they'd overlooked the fact that a man was stabbed to death only months ago outside the front of the building, and now they're putting come-on-face jokes in pantomime and more references to the arsehole than I've ever heard in my entire life. In fact, at one point, I think there are 15 consecutive gags about the ring. Julian Clary is Ringo of the Ring in this performance. This gives him one opportunity to just stand there and make every anal sex joke he possibly can. For me, it was unedifying, it was embarrassing, and most importantly, and the biggest crime, it wasn't funny. This is the first time I've ever said that about a pantomime at the Palladium. I have given this show 5 stars for the last 3 performances, which were magnificent and also on a much bigger scale. What's interesting about this production, which was first staged at the Newcastle Theatre Hall last year, Michael Harrison's hometown theatre, this is basically a 4 proscenium arch set with some fabulous lighting and very little else. There are a couple of props. There's a gorilla called Boris who is not to be trusted. That was the first problem I had within seconds of the curtain going up. Oh, may I say, by the way, that the 2 people sat next to me, one of which was a 4-year-old, left within 4 minutes of the show beginning with her father because she was so terrified by Paul O'Grady's entrance, which was so loud it scared her to death, and she refused to return to the theatre. That's an expensive £180 they'll never see again. This show is not a pantomime. It is a variety show in the first half, akin to the Royal Variety, with just basically stop, start, rammed in each of the stars he's put in the show. And that's disappointing. There's no flow to this musical. I say musical because in the first half it's certainly not a pantomime. In fact, we don't get any story until about 10 minutes before the hour and 20 first act, which is far too long in my opinion. This is not Les Miserables. It's a camp afternoon out for the kids. Or at Goldilocks, a sex education in how to have anal sex for 75 minutes whenever Julian Clary is on the stage. He must go home proud. It's also disappointing there's no attention to detail this year. I mean, the whole thing is a circus. That's basically the backbone of this production. It's trying to be the greatest showman. And the Palladium was a circus. It was the Hengler Circus. Yeah, they call it the Barnum Circus. So I don't know why they didn't use that. I mean, it's on the safety curtain. So, I mean, if they happen to look up, they'd see it there. These little details for the Palladium would be beautiful, but it seems to me there's no attention to detail this year. All right, I'm being a bit unfair. Let me tell you what I loved about this show. Of course, the orchestra is magnificent. There's a ton of them down in the pit, and they sound fabulously mixed by a top sound guy who obviously is a huge talent. The lighting in this show is quite wonderful. And actually, it's quite good that it is marvellous, because if it wasn't, there'd be very little else left on stage. There's a couple of big props in this. There's a gorgeous elephant, which is stunning for the kids. There's a gorilla called Boris, as I've mentioned, which is a needless attack during an election period. I'm not a fan of putting politics into light entertainment. Clearly kudos are. In terms of performance, well, you've got Julian, who I've lost all faith in. He's gone from being camp and funny to being a nasty old queen who just makes fun of people. The whole routine about Goldilocks not being a very good actress and coming from a crap theatre school is totally inappropriate. It's so in. When did Panto and Michael Harrison's productions become so incestuous? Do people care about this stuff? I think it's really in and really not funny and actually quite vicious. There's a whole section in the second half where they stop a song and they do this 7-minute routine about Paul and Julian, and they name names and break the fourth wall and all of that. Stop it. Just give us some funny gags, milk a cow, insert him behind you, and then we can pretend Julian is not king of the rings and loves anal sex and shout, "Oh yes, he does." The joy of pantomime. Costumes are fabulous. They're always fabulous. They've only put money into 2 things in this production: costumes and stars. Talking of stars, the gag that Nigel Havers is the extra runs really thin in this production. Okay, it's boring now. We get it. Nigel has done the same gag now for 3 pantos. It's not funny. Paul Zerdin does the same gags we've heard before, and it's basically a best of the last 3 productions. And if you've seen any of the clips online, like the baby crying, we get to do that. We even get the same opening, which to me is incredibly lazy and disappointing. If I were given the opportunity to perform on the Palladium stage, I wouldn't be bringing out old shit from years ago. I'd actually sit and spend 11 months think of something new. Shame on you, Paul. Come on. This is the Palladium. I'm really sick of people taking advantage of the public, and this show feels like we've done 3 amazing big production pantos and now we're just going to cash in on it. Nah, that doesn't work for me. There are 2 stars in this show that I really would like to celebrate. One is the amazing Matt Baker from The One Show, who really has terrific energy. He has a background in circus. This is more a circus, by the way, than anything. It celebrates the great talents of circus and special acts. And Matt is one of them. He can do the high wire. He can also dance. And most importantly, he's the only person on that stage who seemed full of joy. Where's the joy gone in Panto? It is not a business. I know you're trying to make a lot of money, but surely there should be fun. The night before, I was at the Harlequin Theatre in Redhill, seeing one of the smallest shows in Panto, and it had such joy. The kids just were screaming and having fun. There wasn't one opportunity in this Panto for the kids to join in at all. Shame on you, Michael. Shame on you, Nick. And shame on you, Kudos. You've totally missed the fucking point of pantomime. And by the way, if you're offended by me using bad language in this review, go and see the show and listen to the endless ring anal sex cum jokes, and I think that might put it in perspective. Listen, I'm done. I'm exhausted with this. It's expensive. It's £175 a ticket. It's low rent crap. It's the worst panto I've ever seen at the Palladium. If Andrew Lloyd Webber goes and sees that, especially the first act, and is proud of it, he should be ashamed. There are 3 special acts, though, I'd like to celebrate. Philip Hitchcock is a class act and does this beautiful close-up magic and dove routine, which is just sensational. God bless him. Thank God for him in this show. These are the people that Kudos should be hiring, professionals who know what they're doing and do it well. And also, they don't call it the Globe of Death in that because it's a bit dramatic, especially considering one crashed only a few weeks ago and the motorcyclist ended up in hospital having piled on top of each other. But there are 4 motorcyclists in the Globe of Death at the Palladium, and it's a sensational act. Why it's so far at the back of the stage is, I presume, for technical reasons, but that loses a ton of impact. Don't know quite why they've chosen to do that, but nevertheless, it's a very big highlight of the show. Congratulations to Gary Wilmot too, who does do that musical song, which is very clever, but it's the repetition of an old theme. Basically put a load of words together and see whether he can remember them, which is a huge skill. But again, I wonder where the creative is. Are they just overwhelmed at Kudos doing too many pantomimes and haven't got time to think of new stuff? I mean, the same gags over and over again, and putting in a 42nd Street dance routine. As impressive as it is, and the dancers are sensational, surely there has to be something new and fun they could do in this panto. There's a nice dig at Prince Andrew in this. As I say, there's a Boris joke. Other than that, no topicality whatsoever. And I just left feeling grubby, dirty, disappointed, and hugely offended that this production feel it has the right to taint the name of Panto and take it to R18, take it to adult pantomime, and put the S in Cinderella, which I believe is a huge mistake, and I think they're in for a lot of complaints. I wonder on press night whether they'll take out some of the gags, because I feel if the stage and if the Guardian get hold of the coming on the face joke to Goldilocks from Julian, they'll hit the roof. It's disappointing that this is an all-star male cast, and you can say, oh, well, Goldilocks is female. Yes, she is, but unfortunately, she just feels superfluous in a cast packed with male stars. It's a shame that the roller bowler Sasha Williams injured himself a few weeks ago and wasn't able to appear. Congratulations to Asia and Dylan Medini of the Skating Medini. Congratulations to choreographer Karen Bruce, who is magnificent. It's really beautiful. Lighting by Ben Cracknell is sensational and saves the whole production. And despite the claim you can get tickets for Goldilocks from £27, it actually is almost impossible to get those tickets. Most tickets are £80 and above. Top prices are 170 odd quid. And in my view, go and see your local pantomime. This is not a pantomime. It's a variety show at best. It's a smut-ridden, low-rent way of making 2 producers very rich, and it's hugely disappointing that they've chosen to do this at the London Palladium. I've never been more disappointed in my life. I have loved these shows for the last few years. I adore what Kudos claimed to want to do, but this is a disaster from the second the curtain goes up. Kids are screaming within 4 minutes and leaving and never coming back. We've got Come on the Face of Goldilocks. Paul O'Grady, doesn't really shine. Julian, obscene. Matt Baker steals the show. And As Great as the Globe of Speed Is by Peter Pavlov. If that goes wrong, as it can, that's a PR disaster waiting to happen for Kudos. Original music by Gary Hyde is formulaic but incredibly nice and beautifully performed by a fabulous orchestra. Costumes are sensational, as always, by Hugh Durant. Sophie Isaacs is a gorgeous Goldilocks, but really doesn't shine, although vocally she's perfect. She sticks to the script and moves it along beautifully. Janine Davitsky does 2-year-old Benidorm gags. Again, Kudos have got to be very careful putting gags in pantos for shows that are no longer on the TV. And Lauren Stroud plays Baby Bear, but again, has little chance to shine. I don't know. I'm really disappointed. It's a shame. Dick Whittington, Snow White, Cinderella, fabulous 5-star musicals, Goldilocks and the Three Bears left me with a nasty taste in my mouth. And I'm sure Julian would have a tagline to that. Probably would involve being licked in the ring, giving me 2 fingers up, and I'm sure it won't go down well. Goldilocks and the Three Bears until the 12th of January at the London Palladium 2019. Please give me a refund for New Year's Eve. You've been listening to another review by me, Alex Belfield, here at celebrityradio.biz, where we've now had over 60 million minutes viewed on YouTube. We're the number one reviewer of theatre in the UK and Las Vegas on Google. Thanks for tuning in. Ta-da.